So Theros Beyond Death spoilers are done, which means it's time for another pre-release guide because that's what we do here. And this is apparently the intro because I'm still recording. This is clearly the top tier quality content everyone's tuning in for. So, okay, we're going back to Theros to learn what life is like beyond death, to figure out what awesome god creatures are waiting for us there, what crazy titans are there, and figure out what's going on with Elspeth because she's been there for a while now. So yeah, I'm going to go through all the cards so that you have an idea of what to keep an eye out for, because I want you to do really well at your pre-release, and I want to help you crush everyone who didn't watch this video. And you can help me out by liking the video, subscribing, and sharing it with all your friends. Probably the ones that don't go to the pre-release with you, because right, we're trying to crush those people. Okay, this is the Theros Beyond Death pre-release guide. Let's get into it. Theros Beyond Death is the continuation of Elspeth's story and her now trying to escape death in the underworld to which she has been cast down into, which is very fitting because the new mechanic for this set is escape. When a card with escape is in your graveyard, it can escape that death it has suffered by you paying some mana cost as well as exiling some number of cards in your graveyard. Some creatures also get an additional benefit like counters when they escape. Other returning mechanics are Constellation, which triggers whenever it or another enchantment enters the battlefield, including enchantment creatures, and Devotion, which cares about the mana cost of permanents you have on the battlefield, like we see with our big indestructible god creatures. Devotion is counted by the colored mana shown on cards in play under your control. We obviously have enchantment creatures returning, but something I'm far more excited about is sagas, which are back with either 3 or 4 chapters to read through. And how can we not be excited about getting some of the indestructible god creatures back, but we really only get the cycle of monocolored ones we saw during our last trip to Theros. Heliod, who's still a jerk, Thassa, Erebos, Perforos, and Nylea. There is one new multicolored one though, and that is Clothis, God of Destiny, and we do have Athreos, but he doesn't really count since he's the buy box promo. Now onto the archetypes and strategies this set brings to us. Yet again, all 10 dual color archetypes work, and the gold cards are the signposts for what each is trying to do. First, with blue-white, we have Sky High Flyers. Staggering Insight is an enchantment that will win you games through card advantage. Put it on evasive creatures like Daybreak Chimera, Sunmane Pegasus, and Dream Trawler to draw tons of cards. And if our opponent tries to interfere with our plans, we have Triumphant Surge, Dreadful Apathy, and Revoke Existence to remove any roadblocks, even those creatures, enchantments, or enchantment creatures. And we have Blue's version of removal, which are cards like Ichthyomorphosis, and counterspell magic like Memory Drain and Ashiok's Erasure. Blue-white wants to play Flyers, but don't overlook Nadir Kraken, which will win you the game on the ground as well. Get out early, control the board, and disrupt your opponent while you poke away for the win. Next is White-Black, and this is Reanimated Righteousness, with our goal being to rise to glory. Although a rare for us, Kunaros, Hound of Athreos, is a bit of a combo breaker since no player can reanimate or escape stuff, including ourselves, but this color combo will create plenty of problems for our opponent. Black gives us great removal cards like Mire's Grasp, Inevitable End, and Drag to the Underworld to get our opponent's stuff into the graveyard. Then prevent your opponent from being able to escape anything out with cards like Cling to Dust, Scrabbling Harpy, and Tymaret Chosen from Death. We can also lean more into our devotion to black with our favorite returning zombie, Gary, out to do some damage, or Blight Breath Catalepus to remove more stuff. These are also 2 of my favorite targets for minions return as well. White-Black has no shortage of removal for any threat your opponent plays, but be sure to have your own bombs and a way to close out a game with something like Woest Rider, which is the creepiest creature in the set, and it brings a goat with it. Okay, moving on. White-Red is all about heroic without actually saying it since actions speak louder than words. Hero of the Nyxborn is here to show us that when someone believes in us and targets us with a spell, we can do extraordinary things, like give all of those around us +1/+0. Same goes for Hero of the Pride, Hero of the Winds, Hero of the Revel. Basically, any card with hero in the name pumps our board when we target it. Go wide with token generation like Omen of the Sun and Reverent Hoplite, and then pump them up with those heroic heroes. You probably won't leave any game unscarred, but you will win when you can apply constant pressure with a wide board, and then using those instant speed spells like Phalanx Tactics, Karametra's Blessing, and Infuriate to deal a surprising amount of damage. Isn't that right, Perforos? Now White-Green is the army of auras with a new Planeswalker in Calyx, Destiny's Hand, and our fearless leader at Uncommon in Siona, Captain of the Phyles. She helps us dig for an aura when she ETBs like Warbriar Blessing to give us that commanding presence and show our opponent we have a truly indomitable will. And Siona brings us more creatures to enchant too, which is great. Heliod's Pilgrim lets us tutor for an aura when it ETBs as well. Lagona Band Storyteller gets us one back from the graveyard to the top of our library, and when Archon of the Falling Star dies, we can return an enchantment from our graveyard to the battlefield. Also, Bronzehide Lion is just a good card. Being indestructible on command and then returning as a fur coat to make another creature indestructible on command when it dies is very strong and limited. White helps us go wide, green helps us grow bigger, and I see this color as one of the highest risk, highest reward archetypes in the set. Something to note is having those key removal spells and some flying or reach will be important to surviving against those evasive opponents. Next up is Ashiok's color pairing with blue-black, and it is focused on Self-Mill. Devourer of Memory loves it because now it can attack unseen and smack our opponent in the face. Sage of Mysteries mills anyone and is a super interesting mill strategy when paired with Shimmerwing Chimera. Mire Triton is just an all-around good card, and Thirst for Meaning is great here because it gets cards out of our deck and into our hand and graveyard. In general, blue-black strives for that inevitable end where we are the ones left with the best creature on the board. We can escape creatures out like Underworld Charger and Farika's Spawn, which is both a big creature and a form of indirect removal, and we can use all of that self-mill to keep that escape engine going. Or we can also go for Hand Hate, playing one of the creepiest cards in the set with Aspect of Lamprey, and win with a big flyer like Enemy of Enlightenment. Also, Atris Oracle of Half-Truths is one of my favorite cards in the set from a mind games perspective. This combo may struggle in the early game, but its ability to find a way to win can be as good as any archetype. Next, blue-red is Your Turn is My Turn, because we want to cast our spells on our opponent's turn for that sweet, sweet value. Starting with some fantastic power creep from Mischievous Chimera, it's a 2/2 flyer for 2 mana, which when we cast that first spell during our opponent's turn, we ping each opponent for 1 damage, and we scry 1. Wavebreak Hippocamp draws us cards and also pairs very well with Nadir Kraken. Stinging Lionfish taps or untaps non-land permanents so our opponent can't attack us. Arena Trickster gets bigger and bigger. Vexing Gull eats fish, and Naiad of Hidden Coves also makes these spells of ours cheaper to cast during our opponent's turn. The power of this color pairing lies in that intimidation factor, where our opponent doesn't know what we're going to do. We can keep damage and counter spells at the ready, and if they are too afraid to commit to the board with their spells, we have the option, like flashing in Omen of the Sea and Thirst for Meaning, to get even more ahead, drawing more meaningful cards. Or just flash in Thrix the Sudden Storm and close out the game. Blue-green is where we find one of the 2 titans in this set, with Euro Titan of Nature's Wrath. Now this color combo is all about that constellation mechanic. Eutropia, the twice favored, is insanely powerful and limited, and will get your side of the board out of control quickly. She combos super well with Renata, Call to the Hunt, and join them both with Setessan Champion and basically be unstoppable through that card advantage. Eutropia is the ideal card to go along with all those big blue and green bodies that just need some help getting in for damage like Brine Giant, Nessian Boar, and Nyxborn Colossus. Also, Shimmering Chimera is a great value here if you can get something like those Oath enchantments into play with it. Another awesome enchantment is Starlit Mantle because we can flash it in to protect one of our creatures, or just interrupt our opponent with a good old-fashioned counter spell like Deny the Divine, or use one of green's best removal spells with Mystic Repeal. This combo is great in that once it gets ahead, it's probably going to stay ahead. Now black-red is where we find our second titan with Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. This color combo is all about self-sacrificing. It starts with this Minotaur Madman. Pair him up with creatures that are a pain to block like Careless Celebrant that can easily 2-for-1 our opponent in the early game, or Annex Hardened in the Forge, who when we lose a non-token creature, he replaces them with a token satyr. Then Final Flare can make use of that token, same with Blood Aspirant, who can fling them around while also pumping himself up, or use Dreamshaper Shaman to sacrifice those creatures not doing anything and hopefully get another more significant permanent into play. Tectonic Giant does a ton of damage or finds us more cards to play, and Omen of the Forge and Fateful End help us cause all kinds of chaos. And speaking of chaos, I have to call out Skophos Maze Warden, which says if you use Labyrinth of Skophos to target a creature, you can have the Maze Warden fight that creature. I love the flavor here and the link between these 2 cards. If you get them both, you gotta play them. Next up is black-green, which is the color pairing most focused on escape. Acolyte of Affliction helps us get a creature back in our hand and some cards in our graveyard. Then we can use the cards just laying around in our graveyard to escape out creatures like Voracious Typhon, Chainweb Arachnir, and Farika's Spawn. We of course also want to use those good black removal spells, including Eat to Extinction, Agonizing Remorse, and Final Death to exile something, and the Binding of Titans and Elspeth's Nightmare are both fantastic sagas for this color pairing to exile opponent's stuff and fill our graveyard. Relentless Pursuit also gets cards in our hand and graveyard as well, and if you're lucky, all those enchantments that compost themselves can be used by Ephemia the Cacophony to make into zombies. Speaking of zombies, these 2 colors also bring us the biggest creature in the set in Polukranos Unchained, who like all good Hydra zombies is happy to eat anything in its path. When you have a ton of good removal paired with huge creatures, it's hard to not escape the worries of the day and just have a good time. And our last color pairing to review is red-green, which is Ferocious Satyrs. Warden of the Chained quickly lets us know we want 4 power creatures, and once we have some, we will most likely be unstoppable. One of our rares, Galea of the Endless Dance, also makes sure the party keeps rocking with our satyr friends like Irreverent Revelers, Careless Celebrant, and Stampede Rider. Nessian Wanderer and Omen of the Hunt make sure we get land on the battlefield, and Elysian Caryatid ramps us to get those big creatures out as soon as possible. And if we run out of gas, Furious Rise also helps keep the party rocking by getting us more cards to play. Our game plan here is fairly straightforward, just be bigger than our opponent and run them over. We need to be like the first Aroan Games, which basically creates us to be an Olympic champion. Easy. Moving on, there are certainly some artifacts and lands to keep an eye out for as well. Thundering Chariot is great in the go wide decks. I'm a huge fan of Soul Guide Lantern in most decks, or at the very least as a sideboard card. And Shadow Spear is bonkers, and reason enough to run some main deck artifact removal. Entrancing Lyre is great for locking down a creature indefinitely, and if you're wondering if you can go and splash into a third color, yes, cards like Altar of the Pantheon help if you have any cards that care about devotion or you need mana fixing, and Traveler's Amulet helps you find that basic land you need. And finally, the remaining Scrylands are back as well. Now on to ranking these 2-color combos. Any of them can certainly win depending on your card pool, but I try and grade them based on consistency and power in a sealed event. I've got 2 tiers for this set. In tier 1, I have white-blue, red-blue, blue-green, blue-black, red-green, white-red, and black-green. In tier 2, that leaves us white-black, white-green, and black-red. And I've ranked these colors as such because typically with a pre-release, it's a slower type of format, so I favor the color pairings that can take advantage of a longer or grindier game. And also my initial kind of gut reaction is that a lot of the cards, a lot of the creatures don't pass the vanilla test. So instead of getting a 3/3 for 3 mana, you're getting a 2/3. And typically that's going to lead to a gummed up board state. And I'm getting Dominaria, Ravnica Allegiance type set vibes from this, so I could definitely see it being on the grindier side. Some of you may be wondering about monocolored as well, with there being the devotion factor and some cards that really reward you for having a lot of the same color. And at a pre-release, I would say don't even worry about it because chances are you're not going to be able to build a solid 40-color deck monocolor from just 6 packs. I mean, you have to have a good curve still. You still need to have removal and bombs. And unless you pull something ridiculous like Erebos and multiple Garys, you could probably pull that off. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. So again, that's why I kind of focus on the color pairings and ranking them as I did. At the end of the day, though, the most important thing you can do is play to your card pool's strengths, which is finding the colors that pair the best to give you the best mana curve, to give you the best removal and bomb combinations so that you can remove your opponent's threats and play your own out to close out a game. These are just awesome events, though. You get to play with new cards you haven't even seen before, so best of luck at your pre-release. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. I'll be happy to help however I can. I always love to hear how pre-releases go, so let me know what sick pulls you end up with if you made any sweet plays. Definitely come back, let me know how it went. Thank you to Card Kingdom for sponsoring the channel. Of course, support that LGS where you play, but if you're going to buy online, buy from Card Kingdom because they have the best customer service in the biz. They're fantastic. And thank you to my patrons for sponsoring the channel. I can't say it enough. Y'all are awesome. I'm looking forward to chat with y'all in the Discord about the pre-releases and what we all end up with. Really looking forward to it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Best of luck at your pre-release, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy. Peace.